Have you ever noticed something slightly uncomfortable? The harder you work, the more dependent you seem to become. You get a raise, your lifestyle expands, and your fixed expenses increase. Somehow, you need your employer more than you did before. Not because they said anything directly to you, not because there's a secret contract clause, but because the system quietly works better when you're not financially free. And here's the uncomfortable part. It's not evil. It makes business sense. Let's walk through a normal scenario. You're 29. You live in a mid-sized US city, maybe Chicago, maybe Manchester in the UK, maybe Lyon in France. It doesn't really matter. The pattern is the same. You earn $75,000 a year in the US or 48,000 euros in parts of Europe. After taxes, insurance, and social contributions, you take home roughly, in the US, about $4,600 per month. In Western Europe, maybe 2,800 to 3,200 euros per month, depending on the country. Now, let's look at reality. Rent or mortgage, $2,500. Car maintenance, $450. Insurance, $180. Utilities and internet, $250. Groceries, $500. Student loan payment, $350. Credit card minimums, $200.
Subscriptions, gym, small lifestyle expenses, $250. You're already at around $4,680, leaving you with about -$80. Now comes the fun spending. Add occasional dining out, travel, birthdays, replacing your phone, maybe a weekend trip, and your margin disappears fast. On paper, you see yourself as middle class. But in reality, you're not building wealth. You're living paycheck to paycheck. Quick thing before we continue. My name is Alex. I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, based on real-life experience and research. This does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. Now here's where it becomes interesting. Your employer pays you just enough to live comfortably, but not enough to be independent. Not enough to say calmly, if I leave tomorrow, I'll be fine. And again, this isn't a conspiracy. From a business perspective, stability matters. Companies need predictable labor. They need people to show up. They need people who can't easily walk away. And that is often you. If every employee had 2 years of living expenses saved and investments covering half their bills, negotiation power would shift dramatically. You earn $75,000 yearly, and you're living in an apartment that costs $2,500 per month. How can you have extra money to save or invest for the future?
You need to step back and reduce your expenses based on your yearly income, because you will grow old someday when you may not be able to work again. People would take more risks, push back harder, leave more often. So what's the ideal employee from a purely rational corporate standpoint? Competent, reliable, slightly financially stretched, but not desperate, because desperation leads to burnout. But mild dependence creates retention. Think about that. Most companies design compensation around market rate. Market rate is not designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to keep turnover manageable. Now let's do very simple math. For example, based on our previous calculations, let's say after all your lifestyle expenses, you managed to save $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. At that rate, building a $30,000 emergency cushion takes 12.5 years. 12.5 years just to build breathing room. And that's assuming no emergencies happen during that time. Now imagine that fun spending didn't exist. Your rent was reduced, meaning you chose a more affordable apartment. Instead of saving $200 per month, you could save $1,000 per month. That's $12,000 per year. If you invested $1,000 monthly at a 7% annual return, over 10 years, you'd have roughly $173,000. That's not a fantasy number. That's basic compound growth. But most of us don't see it that way. We see the car as a reward, the expensive apartment as comfortable living, a signal that we're progressing and living well, proof that the degree and long hours were worth it. And this is where psychology quietly enters the picture. We don't optimize for freedom.
We optimize for comfort and social validation. When you get a raise, you don't think, how do I buy my independence? You think, I can finally upgrade, better apartment, newer car, nicer vacations, higher baseline lifestyle. And here's the subtle shift. Your fixed monthly survival number increases, which means your employer's leverage increases with it. You don't stay because you love the job. You stay because your life has expanded to the size of your paycheck, and shrinking it feels like failure. That's the system flaw. Not that employers are evil, not that salaries are fake, but that financial freedom is not aligned with business incentives. Businesses optimize for productivity and continuity. Financial independence optimizes for optionality. Those two things are not enemies, but they are not perfectly aligned either. If nothing changes, 10 years pass quickly. You're earning more, yes, maybe $95,000 now, maybe $60,000.
But your mortgage is larger. Your car is newer and financed. Your lifestyle is heavier. You feel stable, but not free. And the most dangerous part? It feels normal because everyone around you is in the same position. You compare sideways, not upward toward independence. Financially intelligent people see this differently. They don't ask, what can I afford? They ask, what reduces my required monthly income? They quietly lower their dependency number. They don't need dramatic raises to feel safe. They need margin. They treat raises as a tool to shrink future obligations, not expand them. And that mental shift changes everything. Not overnight, but over time. Because once your fixed expenses are low relative to income, something powerful happens. You become hard to control. Not aggressive, not rebellious, but calm and sensible. And calm people negotiate better because they don't need the outcome as badly. When your monthly survival number is $4,800 and you have $2,000 in savings, every meeting with your manager carries invisible pressure. When your survival number is $3,000 and you have $50,000 invested, the emotional temperature drops. You speak differently. You evaluate differently. You tolerate less. That shift is subtle, but it changes your career trajectory. Now here's where most middle-class professionals misunderstand the problem. They assume financial freedom requires extraordinary income. It doesn't. It requires controlling expansion. Let's go back to our earlier example. You're earning $75,000. After tax, roughly $4,600 per month. You get promoted. Now you're earning $90,000. After tax, that might become roughly $5,400 per month. That's an $800 monthly increase. Here's what typically happens. Instead of you living the same lifestyle level you were living before, you will want to upgrade because of your salary raise. You move to a slightly better apartment with an extra cost of $400. You upgrade your car maintenance with an extra cost of $250. Your dining and travel expand with an extra cost of $150. The raise disappears almost instantly. Your comfort improves, but your financial freedom does not. And here's the psychological trap. Because the upgrades feel deserved, they don't feel dangerous. Now imagine a different response. Instead of upgrading immediately, you freeze your lifestyle for 3 years. You keep living on $4,600. The extra $800 goes into investments. $800 per month at a modest 7% annual return for 10 years grows to roughly $138,000 to $140,000. That number isn't dramatic wealth, but it represents something powerful: options. That money alone could cover nearly 3 years of $4,000 monthly expenses. 3 years of breathing room. 3 years of not panicking. 3 years where decisions are strategic, not emotional. And that's where the solution quietly lives. Financially intelligent people don't use raises to expand life. They use raises to compress dependency. They measure success differently. Instead of asking, what can I afford now? They ask, how much of my life is no longer owned by my paycheck? Let me make this concrete. Imagine 2 coworkers, both 30 years old, both earning $80,000 per year. Employee A upgrades apartments, leases a new SUV, finances furniture, travels frequently using credit card points, but carries small revolving balances. Nothing reckless, just modern middle-class normal. Employee B makes one decision. For 5 years, income growth will not change lifestyle baseline. They still enjoy life. They travel, they go out, but fixed expenses remain stable. Employee B buys a reliable used car instead of leasing, stays in the same apartment 2 extra years, avoids lifestyle debt.
If employee B invests just $1,200 per month for 5 years at 7% annually, that grows to roughly $86,000 to $90,000. The difference after 5 years is not visible externally. They dress similarly, they work the same job, they post similar vacations, but internally, employee B has built margin, and margin changes behavior. Here's the psychological part. Humans adapt quickly to comfort. The first month in a nicer apartment feels incredible. By month 6, it's normal, but the higher rent stays permanent. We anchor to lifestyle upgrades faster than we anchor to freedom. Freedom feels invisible because it's not consumed, it's stored. And storing does not give dopamine. Spending does. This is why the system sustains itself without force. No one pressures you to upgrade directly. You pressure yourself. Comparison fuels it. Your friends upgrade. Social media normalizes it. Your industry peers normalize it. So the real solution isn't rebellion. It's quiet math. Financially intelligent people track one number obsessively: their required monthly cost of living. They aim to keep it low relative to income. If you earn $6,000 per month but only require $3,000, half your income is optional. Optional income becomes investment fuel. If that $3,000 monthly surplus is invested at 7% annually for 15 years, it grows to roughly $950,000 to $1 million. That gap compounds more than income growth alone. And here's something most people miss. High income with high expenses creates fragility. Moderate income with low expenses creates resilience. Resilience is what employers can't easily control. When your expenses are low, you can turn down unpaid overtime, switch companies without panic, negotiate from strength, take career risks that increase long-term earning power, start a side venture without desperation. Ironically, reducing dependence often increases income over time because fear decreases, and fear quietly suppresses opportunity. Now let's zoom out to the long-term picture. If you ignore this and continue expanding your lifestyle with every raise, you wake up at 40 earning 6 figures,
But needing 6 figures, mortgage, private school, 2 financed cars, lifestyle commitments locked in, higher insurance, higher property taxes, higher baseline expectations. You're successful on paper, but immobile. If instead you spend your 20s and early 30s compressing fixed expenses while income rises, by 40, your investment portfolio may realistically cover 25 to 40% of your living costs, assuming consistent investing and moderate market returns. At that point, losing your job is inconvenient, not catastrophic. That's the quiet version of financial freedom. Not yachts, not quitting dramatically, not posting about passive income online, just lowered fear. And lowered fear changes everything. And here's the important reframing. Your employer doesn't not want you free out of malice. They simply optimize for stability. But you must optimize for optionality. Those are 2 different optimization problems. Once you see that clearly, you stop expecting your paycheck to save you. You start using it strategically. You don't need extreme frugality. You don't need hustle culture. You need controlled lifestyle growth. That's it. Slow raises, slower expense increases, consistent investing, patience. Over time, the gap becomes power, not loud power, quiet power. And quiet power is what allows you to make decisions without fear. If this perspective helped you see your paycheck differently, not emotionally, but strategically, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.